Hello, welcome to the Harry Glorikian Show, where we dive into the tech-driven future of healthcare. There's a good chance we're all going to live a lot longer than we think. Or at least, that's what my guest, Sergey Young, argues in his book, The Science and Technology of Growing Young. Sergey is an investor who leads a $100 million venture capital fund called the Longevity Vision Fund. And through his investing, he says he meets innovators who are coming up with the technologies that will extend our healthy lifespans, not just by years, but by decades. Those technologies include better drugs, of course, but also gene editing to rejuvenate our DNA and methods for regenerating or replacing old organs, just the way you'd replace the worn-out parts in an old car. All of these technologies are coming faster than we think, Sergey says. And the big question is how widely they'll be available and whether everyone who wants them will have access to them. That's the theme of Sergey's work at the Longevity Vision Fund, which focuses on companies creating affordable and accessible life extension technologies. And it all leads to some pretty mind-blowing questions. Just think about it. Would you want to live to be 120 years old? Most people would say no. But Sergey says that's only because they have an outdated picture of what it means to be old. What if you could reverse the aging process until you were as healthy as a typical 45-year-old or 25-year-old? Then living to 120 might be pretty great, especially if you figured out how to reinvent yourself every so often, maybe have 2 or 3 separate careers, stay socially active, and keep doing all the things you're passionate about. Sergey's writing is full of intriguing possibilities like that, and it was fun to talk through some of them with him. For this conversation, I reached Sergey at his home base in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates, where it was a balmy 35 degrees Celsius, that is. Sergey, welcome to the show.
Hi, Harry. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you. As you can see, I'm dialing in from warm, even hot Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates.
And you were saying it's 35, so it's cold. So
yeah, it's actually cooled down a little bit. It was plus 42 Celsius early this week, and right now it's plus 35. So it's considered very enjoyable weather here. Again, it's Celsius. It's not Fahrenheit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally understand. So, Sergey, I want to sort of give everybody a sort of a grounding, right? So,
yeah,
a couple of years ago, you wrote, I think it was 2021, you published
the book,
The Science of Technology and Growing Young, which you're holding up now.
Yes.
And I think it's still the best single guide to your own thinking about science of longevity and what people can do to take advantage of the latest advances in that area. And I think everybody should read it, but for the people who have not read it, can you give us sort of a 2 or 3 minute summary?
Sure, of course. I'm always, before I do that, I'm super happy to do that. It's always funny, like when we humans, we always try to find like this solution, the silver bullet, right? So, and even in my early days when I started to do more longevity investing and working on longevity program for myself, like everyone I would meet in longevity field, I would like, okay, Jack or David, like this is all great. I appreciate the complexity of human biology, but like, can you tell me one thing? Like it's so this is, I say it with a lot of love to all of us, and I'm doing exactly the same. Okay, so here's the thing. Well, first of all, I actually think that there are a lot of great books on longevity field, not necessarily on like longevity investing and different technologies, the overview of that, but like I think on scientific front, the choice are extremely wide, from like David Sinclair, lifespan. Yeah, okay, so a lot of books there, but so the overall idea of the book is we're all going to live longer or much longer than we expect. And if you think about this, there are a number of implications around that, from how do we think about our own lives, because in the past, when we live, 70, 75 years, you have like three parts life, education, like adult, career, having kids, growing kids, and like retirement. And it was all pretty binary, actually. You're either like in one stage or another. So we're looking at series of mini lives that all of us will have to live and make our own choices, relationship, kids from multiple generations for us, careers, education, new passion, etc. So I think it's fascinating, but it's even more fascinating to look like how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna break the sound barrier of 122 years? This is the maximum lifespan on Earth, and with the help of what kind of technologies and scientific breakthroughs. And the book structured in two parts. And one is dedicated to what I call a near horizon of longevity innovations. And these are the technologies that we're investing in now through Longevity Vision Fund and many other people all around the world, including you, Harry, supporting development of that. So, and these are technologies which will help us to live significantly longer, like add 20, 30, 40 years to our life, healthy and happy years to our life. This is extremely important. And when people ask you, so what are the main drivers of this longevity revolution in the next 5, 10, and 15 years, I'm always telling about three things. One is gene editing and gene therapy. I think it's fundamental, it's just transformational. If we find a way to amend human DNA in a very ethical, obviously, and socially acceptable way, I think it's a platform for a lot of breakthroughs, not only in terms of lifespan, but health span as well. So that's number one. Second thing is, it's in the field of regenerative medicine, so many great things happening, but for me, the most important part is organ regeneration there. Because if you think about the old car, this is not my metaphor, it's metaphor from Aubrey de Grey. And if you want to extend the life of the old car, like what you're doing is just like replacing spare parts, right? You can even replace an engine, and similar things happen in there. You can 3D print organ, you can use animal materials to like regrow organs, and this is what we're doing through one of our companies. You can use your lymph nodes to regrow organs inside your own body. This is a new technology. It tested on humans this year. So this is very exciting. And then number three is longevity in the pill. I'm talking about the new class of drugs. It's going to be called anti-aging drugs or age reversal drugs or longevity drugs. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that unlike today, when you go to the pharmacy, like, CVS or Walgreens, and like, can I have a, drug against aging, they would think you're crazy, or they would send you to cosmetics or sell you supplements. But like in 5 to 10 years, we're going to bring prescription, and it's going to be anti-aging drug. It can easily be drug from the past, like metformin or rapamycin, just existing substance repurposed for that. And I'm part of American Federation of Aging Research Board, and Federation is working on starting the metformin trial here in the US next year with 3,000 people. That's going to be a huge breakthrough. I know it's an old drug. It's actually less expensive than placebo for the trial. Can you think about this? Yeah. I think it's amazing. Yeah, but I think this trial is not about metformin. This trial is about the introducing the concept of longevity drug, of the age reversal drug, or slowing aging drug, rather than just drug against any particular disease. Or it can easily be drug developed with the help of AI, because the artificial intelligence is now used to compress like years of drug discovery and drug development into month. And again, your work and your investments are supporting that as well as we have a number of companies in our portfolio to support that. So again, 5, 10, 15 years from now, it's all in the making now. I'm not talking like the good news about the book. There's nothing there which is sci-fi. It's all based on the actual work of amazing scientists, entrepreneurs that we honored to support. Gene editing, gene therapy, organ regeneration, or regenerative medicine overall, and longevity, and in a pill. And then so that, but that's this is helpful. This is plus 20, 40 healthy and happy years. But then if you want to live beyond 150 years, and there's huge if behind that, I'm not a big fan of immortality, obviously, and I still need to sort out what I'm going to do after I'll turn 150. Yes, I'm 51 today, so I just have another 100 years to decide. But then if we're going to live beyond 150 years, and this is a little bit like sounds like a sci-fi now, I don't think we're going to remain biological species, right? It's going to be engineered humans, combination of biology and technology, things like human brain, AI integration, nanobots flowing inside our blood and then fighting cancer cells or doing diagnostic, human avatars, either like robotic ones or the virtual ones, and many things. So augmented humans overall. But again, this is far horizon of longevity innovations. It's going to be 25, 50 years from now. And there are a number of ethical issues and regulatory issues, societal issues that we need to resolve before we embrace it. But again, I would not worry about this. This is more like a concept, like where are we going? And is there anything useful that we can take from this concept for our work or for our life today? So that's two parts of the book. Obviously, it's mostly the near horizon of longevity innovation. Two last chapters are, one is about technologies of far horizon. The other one is about ethics of longer living. It's called Morality of Immortality. And the biggest chapter in the book, called bonus chapter, is about 10 longevity choices. 40 pages, what you can do today to live healthy and happy life.
Yep. So at some point, I want to, later on as we're talking about, I want to talk about accessibility, because this has got to be accessible to lots of people. But a very basic question, but I think it's important. What is aging? You offer a bunch of different definitions of it, but I'm curious, like your own personal opinion, right? If you had to boil it down, what do you think is happening inside our bodies, our cells, and our minds when we age?
Very interesting question. I mean, it's a simple question, but we were trying to find the answer for that for it's not even centuries, not thousands, I think for a million years. So look, first of all, we need to realize, again, trying to boil it down, if I would tell my mom, if she would ask me exactly the same question, right? So first of all, aging is not something it's not a one thing, right? It's a complexity of factors. Remember our the start of our conversation today. So it's a combination and really complex interplay of different factors. So some of them are happening inside our body, and we obviously believe it's mostly internal, but also a lot of environmental factor influence this as well. So inside our bodies, there are a number of mechanisms, different mechanism and processes started to manifest around 40, 45 years when we becoming 40 or 45 years old, or 40, 45 years young. And it range from genetic factors. Sometimes people are lucky with their genetic setup. Sometimes people are unlucky. It's a common belief. I mean, if you look at these studies, it's anywhere between 20 to 40% of our longevity is defined on the genetic front. I tend to believe almost all centenarians, they live a good life, but also they've been lucky in terms of expression of the longevity genes, 3,000 longevity genes that we already know. So they work better in their bodies. But the most important part is actually outside genetics, is a number of things it's so okay, you have these genes, but then how they project themselves in the body, how they influence your own biology. So that's called epigenetics. And sometimes, if you remember, once in a while, they even stopped sharing results of genetic, it was genetic sequencing, like genetic tests with people without, and they insist on sending them only to your doctor, so he or she can then explain you what is happening with you, because people like took genetic information for granted. And sometimes if you have like a cancer risk, and this particular cancer risk, it doesn't necessarily automatically means that you're going to get it, right?
Correct.
With it's only like 20 to 40% probability in statistical terms. So, but then the other things would be like many different processes, like what is your body doing with the dead cells, right? Does it still have the coping mechanism to take out the dead cells from, or it's called cell waste from your body, and eliminate this? So this is kind of really important. The other mechanism is, when cell is dividing itself, that seems to be like a limit of, what's the number of divisions, right? And reproduction can be made as well. Then the other factor is about role of mitochondria, like the powerhouse inside the cell, which produce the energy and make everything work as well. And I could go on and on with different factors. So in LVF, in our scientific board, like Guido Kromer, one of the authors of the 9 hallmarks of aging, just joined us. And actually, they published this paper 10 years ago. They just done a revision of that earlier this year, 2023. So they added more hallmarks of aging. So it's very complex. And the way to think about this, if aging would be about one thing, then it's either Mother Nature or God or beautiful human brains would solve it. So it's not one thing, it's always complexity thing. And then finally, and I think this is very powerful message from the book as well, is that finally, through the whole history of humanity, we have something which can appreciate and solve complexity of human biology, which is artificial intelligence. So human brain is just not really good to like appreciate this whole complexity of that. And that's why like 80% of the companies in our portfolio, they're using AI as an enabler. And I think it's very important to realize that we're really living in this unique moment of time.
So how did you get into the science of aging and longevity, right? Was there like this, were you in the shower and was this like wow moment when you realized,
I was
how much
in the
science
doctor's
and aging
office. I mean, and I invite our audience to observe this. The unfortunate reality about human mind and us humans is like we all need a wake-up call, like external shock, to start to be like interested in health and longevity. Just I was living my life, successful investment manager. I was working on career, from the age of 17. I'm from very poor family, from very poor part of Far East of USSR, and I just got I went to the doctor and they were like, "Well, Sergey, you have extremely high cholesterol level. Apparently, I have a I'm genetically predisposed for that." And I'm like, "Oh, this is great. Give me the pills, and I'll just continue my work." And I say, "Yeah, sure. Here's your pills." And then my question was like, "Is it just for 1 month course?" And they're like, "No. Every day for the rest of your life." And I'm like, "Okay, we need to stop here." Because I at this time, I think it was 43 or 44. I'm like, why do I need a pill to survive for the next 40 years? Again, at this time, I thought I'm going to be living to 80 years right now. My expectations are significantly inflated, hopefully in a very kind of fact-based way. But I was shocked like that. Why would my body require something like that to live and survive? So, and I basically opened up this whole field of longevity and health, human health, and I realized there's so many misunderstandings and myth that we have about this. And it's a little bit like with crypto. I mean, you can read about Bitcoin, but if you have your own like Satoshi, which is, you know, part of Bitcoin, or you have your own Bitcoin, you can look at this and your learning goes under your skin. So I thought, like, if I like the space and it seemed to me like developing, I need to set up investment fund because I'm an investor. So I set up, it's $100 million fund called Longevity Vision Fund. We've been working now, we're celebrating our 5th anniversary this year. People thought I'm crazy because longevity is still an orphan for big pharma, but we get in there. And it was amazing. I mean, you know, Harry, like $100 million is like peanuts for financial industry. Right. So, but we've been able to support like 18 brilliant companies. We've made money for our investors. But I think what is more important, we focus on affordability and accessibility aspects. So I'm not interested in supporting anything which would help like billionaires and will be available only to billionaires, right? But and affordability, accessibility is an amazing filter for us to see whether we invest or not, because our companies, they bring like 10, 20, 50, not percent times improvement cost-wise or efficiency-wise, like early cancer diagnostic, affordable ultrasound devices, you know, or like liver transplant replacement as well. So I'm really proud that, you know, we've been able to support a number of breakthrough technologies and scientific discoveries, which would help us to create completely affordable, super accessible version of digital medicine and digital healthcare. I mean, in fact, my dream is like, I don't see any other reason apart from economics, regulation, you know, capitalism philosophy. I think in the future, like substantial part of healthcare services should be for free.
That would be nice.
We're going to democratize,
for everybody.
Going to democratize access to that. Like it's because it's digital. Like any incremental patient is just like nothing. It's just a little bit of more work by AI.
So, you know, do we know if there's a natural upper limit to human lifespan, right? You talk about in your first chapter that it may turn out that the human body is technically unable to carry on much farther than 115 to 120 years, right?
Yeah.
But beyond just looking at demographic data, right? How long people live today and, you know, but are there any indications that an upper limit really exists?
Look, I think it's all statistics, and you know, we have like what 8 billion people on the planet now. Many more live on this planet as well. So you know, I think it's like our record shows that it's 122 years. Like I've just been to China, where I published the Chinese version of the book. They seem to believe that it's 130. Yeah, statistically we can live to that. That's number one. Are we gonna break this limit in the next, you know, 50 years? I'm pretty sure we are, because technologies and science become better. But this is all incremental kind of additions, right? It's only with the help of gene editing, gene therapy, organ replacement, regeneration, age reversal, not slowing down aging, but actually age reversal substances, we can achieve that. But again, and it's more like it's more like a philosophical question. Like if the Greenland whale can live to 200 years, like why us humans could not live to this age, right? I like, you know, we obviously different species, but in the end of the day, I mean, it's just our neighbor on this planet, right? So I think it's, but again, and this is the part of the book. If you think about this, I think people are fragile. Like in our biological form is a very fragile form of existence. So I think we can then extend it to 130, 140, 150 years. But beyond that, I think human mind would find something that would augment us or engineer us, right? I'm not talking like we all going to be robots or we all going to be in Matrix, right? But like, and we already use some of the technology, you know, like, you know, right now inside our bodies. But I'm pretty sure that beyond 150 years, it's going to be a completely different kind of humans. And we might be one of the few remaining generations of humans on this planet which are living in existing biological form.
It's interesting, right? If I think to myself, if I thought for a minute I was going to actually live to 130, I mean, Sergey, I would have to rethink. I mean, there's a whole bunch of rethinking that would need to go on, right? Because I'm like, what am I going to, maybe I'll go get another degree. Maybe I'll go I mean, you would have to reinvent yourself a few times over 130 years. Otherwise, you'd get bored.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Well, let's talk about this. I think this is a very interesting concept, and a number of things that are different in today's world and in the future world from our current view of that, our current paradigm. And I think it's important to understand. So people think that we're working on immortality or almost endless life extension. I don't think it's the case for the overall longevity sector and industry. So knowing what I know about technologies, what's going to happen every 5 to 10 years, you would need to decide, you're going to, would you want to extend your life for another 5 to 10 years? So it's going to be like series of life extension decision points that, each of us will have a freedom to decide. So if you think you completed your mission on Earth, I mean, you can go to Mars, or, you can allow yourself to die. So I think it's, we can think about this with certain relief that I don't think anyone would push anyone to be to live 200 years. Okay. And the immortality, I just don't like the whole immortality thing. I think if you take the death from the human cycle, we cannot really appreciate this we cannot appreciate the human life overall. So this is the first thing to realize about the future. So it's not like no one will, ask you to stick on this planet for 200 years. That's number one. Number two,
No, I was going to say, I mean, if you think about it, when I think about my grandmother, or even, my mom's friends, at some point they're like, look, all my friends are gone.
Absolutely.
What's the point of, if I don't have that community, at some point,
exactly.
What am I going to do? Sit by myself in sort of, it's the meaning of life, whatever that is, right, for that person, is gone. So living longer, why?
Can we talk? Okay, let's discuss that. I think it's very important, and this is the second mistake that we always making, assuming this is how it's going to happen in the future. Think about this. Right now, we're talking about technologies which will help us to define our target biological age and arrive to this age. Okay, later this year, we're launching a pro bono competition where a group of 65 years old people, 65 and above, will test different technologies and scientific breakthroughs to reverse their biological age from 65 to 45, right? So, and again, I mean, we're in the beginning of the road. I mean, it's just, science and technology and regulation and ethics should take as much time as possible, but we start in this process. So think about this. Right now, I'm 51, right? And when I think, I need to reinvent myself, if I'm that and that at 51, how will I look like? How do I feel at the age of 75? So you're assuming when you're going to be 65 or 75, you will not have a power, hormonal balance, energy. So obviously, if you need to decide from the point when you're 75 years old, you don't want to live longer, right? Or you need, more convincing reasons to live longer. And people find them. But if I'm chronologically like 75, but biologically I'm 45. I have completely different mindset. I'm full of energy. I'm reproductively. I can reproduce myself, right? And again, because if people are healthy, like their reproductive period will also extend. So, like, if I would feel like 45 and I'll be biologically like 45, this might change your perspective on starting the new life, starting the new career, starting the new relationship, starting the kind of new cohort, new generation of kids.
I mean, everything we know would have to change. I mean, if you look at right now, what is it? Al Pacino just had a baby, and I forget the other actor, right?
Yeah.
And they're not spring chickens. De Niro just had another baby.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. I mean, seriously, but so okay. Let's shift for a moment, right? Because longtime listeners know, like, the central theme of this show is how is data about our health going to revolutionize medicine, right? Because now we can really gather much more data about ourselves, patients, and because of advances in computation and AI, we can really do a lot more with that data, as you've sort of said a few times. So I have a few questions about that, right? So do you think we're doing enough to make personal medical data shareable, actionable? What excites you about the area? And what are some of the biggest barriers to progress, especially as it relates to the kinds of personal data we need in order to be smarter about the way that we age?
Yes, obviously we're not doing enough. And I think situation even more terrible than you would expect. Few facts. I've seen, I think it was an article published a couple of years ago that majority of data exchange between different healthcare providers are still happening by the way of fax messages.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's actually I'm not sure it's actually like a fax machine like we've seen 20 years ago, but like it's scanned kind of copy and sent by fax. So and the figure I remember is like 60%. So like what are we talking about? Like I think it was UK and I think it was 3 years ago they even created a regulation which prohibited the purchase of fax machines by hospitals. Okay, like people were just like buying them, like just using fax to for the data interchange, and I think it's awful. That's number one. Number two, I also think it's healthcare as a very traditional and conservative industry, and as a patient, I want it to be that way because I don't want them experiment with my health. Okay. Well, on the other side, it works against that. Like if you go to the hospital next door, you almost like traveling back in time because it takes 17 years in the US from something being approved for the use to be in actual use, like in majority of places all around the country. So like today is what, 2023, like, it's you're traveling back in time. And I think it's it's a pretty sad story. So I actually think, and again, I'm intentionally provocative to get the message across. Like I'm not saying this is gonna happen. I'm not embracing big tech. Big tech has a lot of problems, and I have a lot of problems with big tech. But I don't think the change and disruption in the form of digital healthcare will come from existing healthcare players. I think it's going to be like like I think 10 years from now, the largest healthcare companies on earth going to be called Apple, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, etc. Again, like just don't try to buy their stocks right now, right? This is not advice about this, and it might be different names, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be digital players disrupting the healthcare. Yeah, it's very unlikely that the current industry will disrupt itself, but this is normal for everything we know about the business and about the construct of human mind as well. But what I like about that, we get in a lot of data, and we seem to solve the data kind of security and safety concerns on many fronts. Like in a way, like people ask me, well, Sergey, what do you think about data privacy? And I'm like, I thought we responded to these questions like 10 or 20 years ago with our phones, right? I'm like, I'm outsourcing everything to that, right? And I think it's in the past, right? So I think that the beauty of new digital devices like the Oura Ring that I use, Apple Watch, and you can use whatever you want, like a number of choices, is that we start to collect data, we start to analyze them, and as always, you can see a lot of evolution is like you start collecting, and then like you have enough data to like draw conclusions, and this is how they do. If you ask me, wearables became our personalized healthcare devices already today. And I think it's only with the addition of two features, which is continuous glucose monitoring and blood pressure monitoring, we're going to get like 90% of the data we need about our health. Like when I'm about to get sick, my Oura Ring will tell me like 24 hours in advance that your body temperature is like elevated. And this is, and then I, fell sick like 24 hours later. And I mean, this is amazing. And I think Apple Watch saved so many lives in the last few years. People falling down in the street, it's called an ambulance. Yeah. Detecting 5 different types of arrhythmia, right? And heart problems as well. Doing electrocardiogram, measuring oxygen level. I mean, and I can go on and on with that. And I think it's exciting.
Oh, yeah. And so I was talking to someone at Google in one of my previous episodes, and we were talking about how countries like India, Singapore, and China want to access their medical large language model, and how they're really putting it into use on a regular basis. But the US is gonna, be, I don't want to say last, but it's going to be farther behind those. And I almost think we're going to be at that point of, if you remember cell phones, right? At some point, the other countries just jumped over the whole
leapfrog,
landline thing, right? And they went to cell phones because they didn't want to go through that evolution. They just leapfrogged. I think the same thing is going to happen in certain parts of healthcare, where
I agree.
Other parts of the world are going to be so much farther ahead than the US, just because, well, the way you do it here is just this way. And, why? I almost think we need a central facility in the US that does real cutting edge, like fast iterations, and then push that out to the existing systems to say, hey guys, this is a way to sort of move things forward. Because if you think about industry, if we're not competitive and we're not making changes on a regular basis, we're never going to win, right? We'll lose. The competitor will beat us. But there is no competition in healthcare, if you think about it in a sense, right? The hospital down the street is where you're going to go. It's not like there's a competition between, two hospitals and you're going to pick one or the other because one.
Yeah.
So it's just a different dynamic that I don't know how it's going to change here in the US relative to what I'm seeing happen in certain other parts of the world.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I see a lot of examples where governments take more active role in not only regulation, but like, developing and promoting much more advanced and digital-based version of healthcare. And I think it's important to realize that we should not be only like US-centric. We should try to learn from the other parts of the world. Like, I remember I was speaking at Singapore May this year, and I went to the website of Singapore Health Promotion Board, and I thought I'll just go there like for like 15 minutes to be relevant for the audience. That's it, right? I was just like, what are you guys doing there in the health promotion? And I spent there like 4 hours on that day. It's amazing. I mean, what they do in there, it's just on and on. And China, again, I just spent like a week in China. I was invited to speak in Beijing University for all the medical students. And the scale China is just massive. Like I was speaking at in the face of like 1 million people audience, and I'm like, Sergey, we're gonna live stream you. Usually it's anywhere between million and 3 million people watching. Yeah, it's gonna be at least 1 million today. Okay, but yeah, what they do in there is I think is extremely important, and because the future of healthcare is a digital healthcare, and it's and use of AI. Well, let's talk about this. So a few years ago, if you do MRI scan and it's human radiologist look through your scan, it's only 34% of chances that early stage cancer will be detected, because doctors, it's a human eye, has its limitation. It's early stage cancer. It's like really difficult to like see beyond this spot on the MRI scan whether it's actually early stage cancer or not. And third, human doctors always working under time pressure, right? So this is the reality of their work. But right now, same human doctor empowered by AI is like 99% chances to do early stage diagnostic of cancer. And this is amazing because stage 1 cancer is 90 to 100% probability of recovery, and stage 4, like a late stage cancer, is anywhere between 8 and 25, depending on the cancer type. I'm generalizing here. Yeah,
but don't forget that it's not profitable to cure everybody, right? So I hate saying it, but there is a business here, and sometimes what's good for the patient may not be good for the business.
Absolutely. Well, that's why people tell me like, Sergey, why you set up Longevity Vision Fund in the US? And I'm like, and let me give you some figures there so then people can reflect on that. US has the largest and the most inefficient healthcare system in the world. Okay. 18% of GDP. And it's probably the only one of the developed nations where the lifespan is decreasing, even pre-COVID, right? So think about this. UK spends 8% of its GDP on healthcare. Singapore spends 5% of their GDP on healthcare, and they have much better numbers. So obviously there are a number of things that you can discuss with your friends over the dinner. Let me put it this way.
So let me swing back to AI and machine learning, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things going on right now. I mean, so many things that I'm honestly having trouble sort of keeping up with the. I think there's
you need AI to support your HI, to keep it.
Yes. And we've built something that's helping us look at papers, right, so that we can make sense of it. But transformers, large language models, these things have been able to predict or generate, good information on human level communication. But we've also found that these things also identify chemical and patterns in proteomic data. And I think it's going to be the next big biotech area, as far as I can see, to accelerate drug discovery, drug design. If you were writing the book today, would you have a whole chapter on just that?
Are you talking about drug discovery and drug development?
Right. Using these large language models, though, right?
Yeah.
Not
this
anything
is happening
that
already.
in the past.
Yeah. Look, it is in the book. We talk about this. It's the whole chapter dedicated to use of AI for drug discovery and drug development. Yeah, absolutely. We have 2 companies in Silicon Medicine and Valor Health in our portfolio, and I was just looking, I think it was in Silicon Medicine. They took like the first 2 years, it's called drug discovery process, and compressed this in 2 months. And this is amazing. And sometimes AI, and like all the companies that I know in the AI drug discovery space, they have massive collaborations with big pharma. It's $100 million of, obviously it's milestone based, but it's a lot of money.
Was it Velo? Velo just
Velo
announced a deal.
Yeah. We were one of the early investors in Velo. I mean, this is massive. And this happening, I think, because the structure of big pharma is relatively consolidated, it's a no-brainer for them. And we don't work a lot with big pharma. Like $100 million is like nothing for them. But everyone I know on a formal basis says like, well, Sergey, we have this whole AI revolution happening inside big pharma now. Yeah, and this is actually easier. I think it's easier to comprehend and easier to imagine that, drugs in the future will not take 12 years to develop. It will not take $2.6 billion per drug, R&D per drug to develop. And but I'm also but what is different, it's not going to be only faster, but it's going to be personalized. I've seen a lot of startups. It was too early for us to invest. On the basis of your genetic, not only genetic, like on the basis of your health data, they would just find the personalized combination of cancer treatment for you. And I think efficiency improved by like 43%. Think about cancer, right? Cancer was kiss of death like just 20, 40 years ago. And for some of us, it's still kiss of death because we wear these old lenses of, how the medicine and diagnostic tools look like 20 to 40 years. But like with cancer, 43% improvement in success. I mean, it's a big deal. Yeah.
So Sergey, you're working with Peter Diamandis on the X Prize Foundation. Now, I think you guys have proposed something called what is it? Age Reversal X Prize.
Yeah,
which is still, I think, in its early form. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the nature of the challenge? I mean, meaning, what will the team have to do to win the prize? How much do you need to raise to actually create the prize? How's the fundraising going? I mean, just give me, for the audience to sort of understand.
Yeah, we're going to launch by the end of November this year in a few capitals in the world. I'm speaking at one of the conferences. It's going to be called HealthSpan X Prize. The idea of the competition, you take just a little bit above $100 million. You go to the world and you say, the first team who's going to solve this problem, the aging problem, going to get $100 million. I mean, it's a little bit more complex than that because you have 2 rounds. Then you support like 10 finalists with the grants out of this 100 million. And then sometimes it's not one winner, but 2 or 3. But like in the end of the day, it's totally pro bono. So I was the one who put the first money into this thing 5 years ago to design this HealthSpan X Prize competition. But obviously, I'm not the richest guy in the world. Then for the last 4 years, we've been fundraising for this, and finally we reach our goal of 100 million. This X Prize competition going to be bigger than the one we've done with Elon Musk 2 years ago. It's called Carbon Removal X Prize. It was $100 million to remove CO2 from the atmosphere. It was funded by Elon. The winning team, what it would need to do is to, again, take a group of 65 years and above old people and reverse their biological age by 20 years in the course of 1 year. And then you actually measure the like a degradation rate. So you measure effect not only in the end of the 12th month of treatment, but then a year later and then a year later to see how sticky this age reversing effect. And that's it. I think we're on the final stage of development of it, and it's going to be launched by the end of the year. We're expecting at least 4 to 500 teams all around the world. It's usually 50 plus countries to participate in this competition. But again, this is all pro bono. This is not the only commercial project that I'm doing in longevity field. This is a longevity vision fund, and this is only for accredited investors to invest. But it benefits the whole world because we invest only in affordable and accessible version of it. We disrupt things by 10, 20, 50 times. Yeah.
So let's talk about longevity for and jumping back to this concept. If you think about drastically extending human lifespan, right? Like, what is it? The average person in the US is 82, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I know it's going down, but let's hope it stays in. For a guy in the US, I'd like it to stay a little higher, right? But why do you think? I mean, when you look at the last, I think I looked at a research interview by the Pew Research Group. They were asking people, would you like to live to 120 or longer, right?
I think they've done.
And the majority of people said no, right?
Yeah.
A bunch of people were like, no, that's not going to work for me, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? And what do you think it would take to change their minds?
Okay, very interesting question. I remember my whole journey in longevity started with this research, right? And I think they published this back in 2016, and they done it in the US and UK, I think as well. And figures are fascinating. By the way, I just want our audience not to be confused with the numbers like 75, 82 as well. Just Google, take a look. A number of terms that we use. One is like expected expected lifespan at birth. The other one is the average age of the people who dying this year. So I mean, it's a range, obviously 75 to 85, but there are different statistical cohorts that they use to define this number. So don't be confused by that. And I remember the outcome of this research, like it was only 15% of people who wanted to be immortal, 15. And there was only 30%, I think around 30% of people who wanted to extend their lifespan. Like 70% or like life extension, even but 10, 15 years, no. And well, if you think about this is, where do we put it? So, I think the best example of it, like, so I'm 51, and imagine people asking me like, Sergey, when you're going to be 100 or 120, do you want to extend your life? And I'm like, no, I'm not sure, because today, whatever exists today in the world of life extension is risky, untested, right? And frankly, not available and super expensive. It's almost like asking people 150 or 120 years ago, you want to fly the plane, and they're looking at these balloons, they're looking at the this early generation of planes, which are extremely risky only for very selected group of people. Things are changing, so we always underestimate technological progress and availability of that and quality of it for the next 10 to 20 years. That's number one. Number two, we have a wrong model of aging today, because we're looking at ourselves, our parents and grandparents, and obviously the life extension today, you just sit and observe how your body is aging and your brain is aging, right? The longevity field and technologies that we're working on would give all of us the opportunity to take much active role in that. So we're not thinking about adding 5, 10, 20 years right in the end of your life. We're thinking about adding this number of years right in the middle of your life when you're in the active stage. So right now, like the maximum you can do, you can slow down the aging. But in 10 years from now, you can do age reversal. So you can, say, I'm 65. I just want to feel biologically, I want to be 45. And when people
that would be
think,
awesome.
They always like, Yeah, I can tell you the secret. We can do it even today by 3 to 5 years. And when people tell me like, Sergey, this is crazy, you cannot do it. And I'm like, okay, the study in the US, uh, 8 weeks, they changed the protocol. They use one protocol for people. For male part of the group, it was minus 3.2 years biologically. It just 8 weeks. And for woman, for the female part of the group, it was minus 4.6 years biologically, just in course of 8 weeks. It was work by Dr. Cara Fitzgerald and her colleagues. She has a great book, Younger You, and the people were like, oh wow, what did they use for like 8 weeks to people to be like 5 years younger? Three magic things: sleep, exercise, and diet. Okay, so if using these lifestyle interventions you can be 5 years younger, why you think it's crazy if we will develop like a longevity in the pill, gene editing, gene therapy, why we cannot be 20 years younger? I mean, it's the same trajectory of the change, if you want, right? This is just, to make all of us a little bit more comfortable with the idea of age reversal.
Sergey, it's been, I hope you're right. I mean, actually, I don't know if I want to live to 150. I'm trying to figure out what I would do for that long. And if my friends didn't go with me, I don't know, it would be sort of lonely, but I would like to, irrelevant of how long I live, I would like to be as healthy as long as possible and then just drop dead.
I agree.
Something quickly. But, I hope you're uber successful in everything you're trying to do, because I think we'll all benefit from it. And it's been great having you on the show.
Likewise. And I wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. Thanks for your questions, Harry. It's always great to spend time with you. And for anyone who wants to find me, I'm Sergey Young 200 on Twitter and Instagram, and the book called The Science and Technology of Growing Young. Thank you.
Excellent.
Stay healthy and happy. Thank you.